Well, I have a lot of the plumbing done on the hydraulic system. I could have actually moved these to the front where they would come straight out also, but that worked out pretty good using the 90s. And I had to make sure that I had like this, where it's a thread-on nut where I could screw to the hose, and then the hoses just screw straight into them. But then on the other end, I had to make sure that they had the fittings that would screw onto the hose. Another thing I ran into, these cylinders on the Amazon description said that they were 1/4 inch O-ring boss, which they are not. They're actually 3/8 O-ring boss. Well, and I thought that naturally, 3/8 O-ring boss would be the same diameter as a 3/8 pipe thread, but it's not. 3/8 O-ring boss is considerably smaller than the 3/8 pipe thread. So I had to have adapters to go from the 3/8 O-ring boss to the regular 3/8 pipe thread, after I had already bought 1/4 inch O-ring boss adapters. So I have yet to get all this going, but see right here, I had to do T's with 90s on it. But basically, this hose goes down to the T below here. Hose comes out, goes to the other side, and then the bottom hose here comes out, goes into the T, and then goes across to the other side over there. And then these are for the bucket tilt, so each one of them goes to each end of the cylinder. This is my return hose, which goes up and connects to this side of the controller, and then this side goes to the pump. So it comes down and goes to the outlet on the pump. This is the inlet hose down here, drawing from the bottom of the hydrostat and going into the bottom of the pump. My angle on that didn't end up, the hose is partially collapsed down, but I think that'll be alright. And my hoses from the pump and my return hoses are 1/2 inch hoses, and then all of these going out to my cylinder are all 3/8 SAE hoses. Well, I think I'm ready to put fluid in it for the first time. Do some preliminary leak checking and maybe cycling it a little bit and seeing what happens. I knew I was probably going to have to prime the system a little bit, but I wasn't noticing that any fluid was going up into the pump at all, and couldn't figure it out at first. I have it hooked up like this with the pump back here, but then I got to noticing it was not primed. And if you'll notice, that's turning that pump counterclockwise, and this is a clockwise rotation pump. So I am going to end up having to buy a counterclockwise pump to make it turn correctly. Just little mistakes that I warn y'all about that I made that y'all may not make, but a little heads up on things. So I guess now I'm waiting on a counterclockwise pump to see whether this thing's going to work or not. Well, with the initial test, I was glad to see that I actually had my controls hooked up right. So that was down, up, and then this is bucket tilt, down, and up. So I was glad to see that I had at least a 50-50 chance on each one of those to get it right. So I'm definitely going to have to do something different with my mount. Of course, I just had that tacked on there, and it broke off, but so I ended up shortening this arm a little bit and tilting it forward, and then I brought this mount from up here on top to about midways there, and that should have fixed the tilt part. Well, I'm happy that so far I have a more or less working machine now. The belt has stretched out on the bottom of it, and I just need to retighten it. And I'm getting ready to put the back fender back on and the seat back on, see if I can get the battery put in its proper place where I can see if this thing's going to drive or not. It drove before, so hopefully it will drive now. With these bigger tires on here, the fender is pretty close, and also the battery, when it used to sit in here, used to drop all the way down to this plate. Well, now that all of this is in here, this hose and this shaft and all this kind of stuff, the bottom can only be, of the battery can only be level with the frame rail right here. So I think what I'm going to do is just raise this fender up a little bit, and then I may have to still put a little bit of a spacer to raise the seat up just a little bit, which I think it needs to be raised up anyway. So I'm going to have to put a little spacer around here to raise the seat up, plus raise the fender up, and I think I'll get it to where I can still put the battery underneath here and everything clear. Well, that's pretty good. I put another 1.5" spacer just out of some wood, and that's what the seat is bolted to. And then this basically folds down over it, but then this is also hinged too, that will go down over it. And it raises the seat up that much, but then I also raised the fender up that much. And I think that'll work out a lot better. Well, Debbie and Melody at On the Brink Designs made all my stickers for me. Got one there and one. They made the international one for back here. And my Kevin's Creations on the side, my little YouTube sticker. So I'll put their link in the description. But the initial short little drive told me that there's still problems with the belt. I'm gonna have to go to a thicker belt. I think I only put a 1/2 inch wide belt on there, and it's gonna have to be a 5/8, and it's gonna have to be something stronger than that one. That one's stretching out really bad. And some adjustment needs to be made to my forward and reverse pedal for the hydrostat. I have plenty of reverse and not much forward, so I have to do a little bit of adjustment to that, but it's more or less done and working. It's too hot to do much work out there with this thing, or even driving it around too much right now. But next video we'll probably do some driving around with it, doing some work with it, and we'll probably do a price breakdown, what all I had to buy and how much it was and that type thing. But I'll see you on the next one.